Well, was it really G19 plus one at the end of the day, in your view?
Well, the United States certainly entered this summit in a very different posture than it has typically entered G20 or G7 summits. Under usual circumstances, the United States comes in with a robust agenda on trade, climate, financial regulatory, economic development, and here, quite frankly, it was on the back foot on two of the critical issues on trade and climate.
Right. And what about this message, perhaps, for other leaders there when he had his daughter sit in on one of the conferences as well?
Well, I think a lot has been made of that. I'm not aware of any instance where a relative of a leader has substituted for the leader at the table, but it is not unusual for a minister to substitute for a leader. But I think, again, dealing with substance, if we could come back to trade and climate, I think two things emerged. In fact, the pledge on protectionism looks very much like prior pledges, with the added emphasis and recognition that states may, of course, use trade defense measures to deal with unfairly traded goods. The other focal point in the trade discussion was, of course, excess capacity in steel and other commodities. Excess capacity is a real problem, which the leaders must come to grips with. The principal actor in this regard is China. But I think the United States came in a somewhat weakened position because of its threat of unilateral action to restrict steel imports. And if I may say, the real trade news to come out of this G20 was on the periphery, and that is the deal that was announced between the EU and Japan, where they reached a free trade agreement in principle. And the market access that the EU will now enjoy in Japan was precisely the market access that U.S. exporters would have enjoyed in Japan under TPP. So I think this really underscores what happens when the United States takes itself out of the trade liberalization game.